Hello and welcome. My name is Ben Hales with Transform My Poker. Nick recently asked me to do a video on the pop. He called it the pop, I think. And I thought he meant the Big Bang. So I wore my physics t-shirt here for you, which has got all the most important physics equations on it. But I feel a bit stupid now because actually the pop that he was referring to was the power of position. So I'm going to have to rethink, and we will talk about the power of position within poker. You're going to learn everything there is to know. So what is position in poker? Why is it important? And how and when to use this to your advantage. Okay. What do we mean by being in position or having position on an opponent? These are common phrases, right? And most of us know the answer to these. If you're not sure, well, this is what we mean. We mean that after the flop, we're going to be acting after the other player. So if there's two players involved, then if we've got position, if we're in position, then after the flop, they will bet and then we will bet after them. That's the key thing to being in position. Obviously, out of position means the opposite. So we would be betting first. And that's really all there is to this. When there's multiple opponents, then it's all relative to each other. So if we may be in position on one opponent and we may be out of a position on another opponent. But overall, if we talk about having position or in position, it means we will be betting last after the flop. And as most of you, again, will be aware, if you're on the button, the dealer button is always the person who will bet last after the flop. And then you go round backwards, anti-clockwise. And that's the relative positions on the table getting gradually worse back from the button, anti-clockwise. So the dealer button is the best place to sit on the poker table for that reason. I would also just note that we're always talking about being in position after the flop, but there is such thing as pre-flop position, and it's worth noting that after the blinds post their blinds, they then wait to act. So pre-flop, in some ways, the best place to sit is the big blind. So if the game were only played pre-flop, which sometimes it is, right, when you're playing short stacks, then in some ways the big blind's the best place on the table because he gets to act last. We'll talk about that again in a minute. Now I want to astonish you. Playing in position is vital. All players make money in position. All players lose money out of position. Now, these are sweeping statements. Please don't write in and complain about these statements. I want them to be out there in your face so that you realize the importance of position. It's vital. It's in some ways more important than your whole cards. Stop getting bogged down with the two cards that you're holding and think about, I need to play in position. I need to make sure I'm playing in position. In position equals profit. Out of position equals problems, losses. Yeah? This is really, really important. I mean, you need to learn to get better at playing in position and better at playing out of position, but you also need to be aware of the basic fact that it's more profitable to play in position. I study databases and I've seen literally hundreds and hundreds of different people's databases. That's why I'm making these statements. It's universally true. If I look at a player's statistics on the button, he's making money. Whether he's a weak player or the best player, he's making money. And out of position, everybody's struggling. So take the advice and focus very much on, oh, okay, I'm going to try and play more in position and less out of position. Okay, so hopefully I have convinced you with my passionate pleas that position is more profitable, but why is it so powerful? Let's give a few reasons. First up, acting last gives you more information, and information is power, and power is position. You can start narrowing your opponent's range. He makes a decision, he makes an action. You can think about what that means. It's going to help you make a more informed choice. And more informed choices are more profitable. So more information is the first thing. Acting last also gives you better control on pot size. If you want to keep the pot small, you can just call or check behind. If you want to increase the size of the pot, you can bet or raise. So you're getting a lot better control on the overall size of the pot, which is not to be ignored. It's a very important reason why position is so powerful. The third point I want to make is that when you act last, your bluffs are going to be much, much more successful. First of all, you're not going to be making as many mistakes with your bluffing because you've got better information. But you're going to get more opportunities to make successful bluffs. You're going to be more accurate with your bluffs. You're going to find better bet sizes with your bluffs. It's just going to work more often because of the dynamic of being in position. And likewise, when you're doing the opposite, when you're betting for value, you're going to be more accurate. You're going to use the information you've got and think, okay, I've narrowed down this player's range. I believe he's got this type of hand. How much would he pay? And you can choose more accurately and get paid more often. So these are 4 very key reasons why position is so powerful. And actually, when you think about all those 4 things, it's no wonder everyone makes money in position, and it's no wonder everyone loses money out of position. On the final 2 slides, let's think about some of the ways that we can harness this power of position. And these are going to be more specific actions for you that you can take away and use at the tables. First up, it's an obvious one. You've heard this before, I know, but it is important. Play a tight range of hands in early position. You're going to probably be out of position post-flop unless just the blinds get involved. So it's much, much smarter to play a tight range of hands. You're very exploitable by all those other players at the table. So play a tight range in early position. Second up, I think these moves are all good moves from the cutoff and the button. You're in late position, do some stealing, do some re-stealing. That means 3-betting if someone from mid position or hijack perhaps, or the cutoff makes a raise that you suspect is a really wide raise. Get 3-betting and put them under pressure. You've got position and you are the aggressor, forcing everyone out of the hand, isolating, or just making everybody fold. Really strong move. Or just flat call and see flops from good position on the table. If you're playing in position, you're going to make more money. So it makes sense to play more hands. If you're currently only playing X percentage from the cutoff or the button, maybe think about how you can increase that percentage. The deeper stacked you are, the more important position is. This is a point that I really want to make clear to you. If you're playing at 10 big blinds stack depth, actually forget position. It just doesn't really matter. All that matters is your hand quality, because it's just push and fold. Position becomes, much less of an important factor. The deeper stacked you are, so cash games or deep stacked tournament spots, that's when position's at its most important, okay? Because there's going to be more post-flop action. There could be 3 streets of post-flop action, compounding the advantage of being in position. Often when you're playing at 10, 20, 30 big blind stack depths, you don't get to the river. You know, you're going to find a lot of pots are all in before the river, maybe on the turn or the flop or even pre-flop, and then there's just less advantage. So exponentially, the deeper stacked you are, the more important position is. I want to conclude with 3 moves you can make to release the power of position. First up, 3-bet shoving from the blinds. This is a really good way of harnessing the power of position. You are last to act pre-flop if you're in the big blind. You see what everyone does. You shove all in, making it a pre-flop game only, so you negate all the disadvantage of playing post-flop. You harness the power of position pre-flop, and you put your opponents to a decision. 3-bet shoving from the blinds is a really good poker move. The second thing is post-flop to float. If you're not familiar with what floating is when you call a bet on the flop or maybe the turn with the intention of taking down the pot on a later street. So you may be seeing the next card really cheap, seeing what your opponent does next and getting aggressive later. So if you're in position, floating, it can be quite a powerful thing. You may or may not have some equity in the hand. You may be completely bluffing, but you're waiting to bluff later in the hand to take the pot away from your opponent. It's a very powerful move, and you're going to be much more successful if you do it in position. Final point I want to make is to do the same thing, to stay involved post-flop, but instead of just calling, to make an aggressive raise. And if you do this in position, then you're going to be putting your opponent to really, really difficult decisions. So you can raise more often post-flop when you're in position. So I recommend increasing the frequencies with which you are doing these 3 things for most of you. Some of you may be doing them too much, so I'm conscious of that. But these are profitable things to be doing when done correctly. I hope you enjoyed the pop video today. If you did, do your thing down there. So Facebook likes and comments, questions, really appreciated. I'll do my best to get back to everybody who comments. My name's Ben Hales with Transform My Poker. Thanks for listening.